Hey, artists, I got a question for you. When you flip through your old sketchbooks and notes, reminiscing about the process of designing your first original characters, seeing yourself draw them over and over until you got them perfect and they were the only thing you wanted to draw, do you also abruptly realize you have no sense of style and can only muster the same outfits you've drawn a million times before because clothes are actually really hard? Hi there, I'm Appleby. Some of you might know me as Mad. When it comes to original characters, I am not in short supply. And one of my greatest loves is drawing them in all sorts of funky little outfits. It's an easy way to show them off without getting into the greater story, and really can make them seem more unique. Building a wardrobe for your character is one of the most useful things to make them seem more real, and as a bonus, makes you look a lot smarter than you actually are. For this example, I'm going to be setting things up for this character. Her name is Perry, and she's one of the protagonists of my longest running original work. To make a very long story short, it's a superhero story following a small group of friends, and Perry is an ex-hero who now works as essentially the manager of her former team, and is still pretty deeply involved in hero politics. Some of that matters going forward, so keep it in mind. There are plenty of different ways to look up inspiration. I'm just using Pinterest because it's easiest, but you're spoiled for choice. Use Google Images, shove them all in a folder on your desktop, stick them on a big board in your drawing program. Just keep them together where you can see all the different pieces next to each other. This is going to be your digital closet of sorts. As you look for inspiration, keep in mind what you want to say about the character. This can be a fun little exercise if they're new or OC. It really lets you get to know them. What about their life shapes their way of dress? In general, you're going to want to keep the who, what, when, where, and how of your story in mind. Personality-wise, Perry is meant to be a very kind and empathetic person. Softer shapes and textures can help convey that, like cardigans or looser fits, with very little patterns outside of the occasional vertical stripes. Perry is an ex-superhero, so while she was still active, her clothing choices probably ranged from sporty to comfort in her off time. Once she retires and turns to working the more diplomatic sides of this world's hero society, she needs workwear. The story is meant to be set in mostly modern day, but it goes over the course of about a decade. So while I can look at modern fashion trends, looking at trends from about 10 years ago is also going to get me pretty far. I haven't quite nailed down where the bulk of the plot takes place, but let's just say it's an urban setting for now, which means she's going to have access to more stores with many different focuses as opposed to a small town that might have a Walmart, a thrift store, and 3 boutiques. As for how she's getting her clothes, Perry is both very busy and well off financially, which means she can afford to order all of her clothes without taking the time to go shopping herself, but it also means that not everything is going to fit her perfectly. Other things you might want to keep in mind would be stuff like ethnic or religious backgrounds, and if that would actually play a part in a character's wardrobe at all. Perry's family is Italian, but she only ever grew up in America, so Italy's fashion trends would matter a lot less to her than American ones, as opposed to characters where their cultures play a major part in their stories. For an example, let's look at K-pop Demon Hunters, another story in a modern setting about super powerful women. Rumi, Zoe, and Mira all have trends common in Korea right now, and with K-pop idols in general. Colorful hair, chunky shoes, loose pants paired with crop tops, while also having some traditional Korean elements like the norige on their intro costumes, which are custom for each girl. All of these add up to tell you a lot about the character's personality. While you're at it, remember things like patterns and silhouettes are going to be in play. More rigid patterns like stripes or chevron can convey a character being stricter or more rigid, whereas waves could mean a more laid-back personality, or polka dots making a character look younger or more carefree. Same thing with silhouettes. This is where hair can really matter. Not only is the silhouette important in making your character stand out, but it can also tell you who they are as a person. For another example, let's look at the Steven Universe character designs. All 4 of the main characters are wearing basically the same outfits each episode, with only a few exceptions. Since all of their base clothes are essentially skin tight, this lets the shapes that are on them really shine. Garnet's head is essentially a square, while her clothes focus on color blocking and symmetry. Since she's meant to be a stable and grounded character, that makes sense. And her clothing isn't something you'd see the average person wearing, really playing into her and the other gems being alien. Meanwhile, Steven is wearing a t-shirt and shorts with flip-flops and has no sharp edges to speak of. He's all rounded shapes in the earliest seasons, which highlights his friendliness, and his stature makes it pretty clear he's a kid. while his clothes are something you could imagine a real-life child wearing when they live at the beach. And hey, would you look at that, as their characters get more complex, so does their designs. Now we're going to transition into actual drawings, so you can see how I use the different pieces I saved. For poses, I'm just going to use a couple I already have sketched up. If you're making proper references, you might want to stick to something more simple, but for fun spreads, fun poses can warrant better practice for later. As I'm drawing, I'm trying to keep in mind what medium I'm working with. These are all just fashion studies, so I can spend a lot more time on detail, but if this were for a comic or an animation, I might cut down a lot, unless I have a way to make that not incredibly painful every time. For solo illustrations though, just go off. Do as much or as little as you want. The other thing to keep in mind is color. In real life, most people wear a variety of things, in color if not style, so if you're writing a more grounded narrative, you may want to pick a general color palette. The spring, summer, autumn, winter palettes come to mind. But in animation and less grounded works, it's common to have a character wear one dominant color that is unique to them. Let's look at the layout for Encanto as an example. All of the madrigals have one color that dominates their palettes to keep them distinct, which is majorly important in such a large cast. And as a result, the overlap can imply relationships between the characters. Peppa and Felix's side of the family are all warm-toned, whereas Julieta and Augustine's kids are in blues and purples. Abuela Alma wears magenta, and Bruno wears green. Isabella starts the movie in purple, bordering on pink, the closest colors to Alma's, but after she and Mirabel reconnect, she changes into blue. Mirabel's teal skirt is the closest to Bruno's green, signifying them both as outcasts, but Mirabel actually has accent colors for every member of the family. Green on her glasses, magenta pink shoes, and all the embroidery on her outfit, which also has imagery that matches the family members. Color is a pretty significant part of Perry's story. Each character in the main cast has one or two colors that I work into basically every outfit that's unique to them. And in addition to that, green and gold have an additional significance when it comes to Perry's power set. To keep from diving into too many details about the power system, Perry and her cousin Phyllis have luck-based powers. Phyllis being good and Perry's being bad. And one of their abilities is to imbue that luck into objects and gift it to people. That's why you'll see repeating clover motifs like the third drawing's choker. Green and gold are the colors associated with luck in this world, which is why both of the cousins are wearing it in almost every drawing I've done of them, unless they're explicitly wearing something that they didn't get a say in, for example these jumpsuits from when they were younger. The final thing to remember is more to do with the illustration than developing the wardrobe, and it can be summed up as the little things. Perry's jewelry, the texture on the jeans, or repeating elements in articles of clothing. In real life, your closet likely isn't made up of pieces in specific sets that you would never wear with any other set. That's just impractical. Sure, you might have one or two outfits like this, especially, say, formal events, but even with that, you're probably gonna reuse something. Even if I made a second fashion spread, I'd probably reuse things from this, like jeans, the shoes, the jewelry, this watch, because that stuff is really easy to work into any outfit. hope what I said makes any amount of sense and that I could maybe give you an idea for how I design my characters and maybe give you some ideas for your own. Have a good day, night, morning, evening, what have you. Bye!